Welcome to Life Unedited. This is your lifestyle guide to living a life that aligns solely with you. I am your host, Tabitha Sweeney, a coach and inspirational speaker who is all about authenticity, friendly sass, and helping you unlock your best self. What's up, you guys? How we doing? We doing good? All right, so listen. Life's been a shit show, but you guys already know that because my life is always a shit show. But here's the good news. My life is a shit show, but I think it's like a coming together shit show. Does that make sense? Like, I think it's finally like settling in and feeling good, feeling right. So I'm super pumped. Because I have narrowed down my niche in coaching. And it feels so good. It feels so good too, because for such a long time, I had the bird's eye view, right? And my bird's eye view, guys, is like bring down the patriarch. Okay, well, what do you do with that? Right? I know all the things, I know all the reasons. You get me talking about that and I could go for like days. All right. So we zoomed in a little bit more. And it took me years. I don't even like admitting that. It's like embarrassing. But it took me years to get to the fact that what I do is I coach self-trust and authenticity through three pillars. And those pillars are body image, worthiness, and boundaries. Pretty simple, right? But that's still like pretty big, because if we're being honest, like totally honest, fuck, we all need that, right? Every one of us needs that. The work in those three pillars to maintain our self-trust and our authenticity is never done. Okay. And then I needed to niche in just a little bit more. I needed to get a little bit clearer. Because here's the thing, I have this ADHD brain, and you know what? It's like, woo, all the time, constantly, never stops. It's amazing because actually, squirrel, I'm talking with AC the other night, and I'm like, does your brain like talk to you all the time? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, like, does it talk to you a lot? And he's like, no. And I was like, oh. And he's like, your brain talks. He's like, you hear voices. And I was like nonstop. And they're all talking at the same time. What? And so I get overwhelmed, because then I'm like, oh, well, this. And then I have all these ideas and I start going in all these directions. And I've been saying for years, my biggest problem in business is I don't really have this like initial funnel. I don't have this initial starting place. Well, I'm realizing now it's because I wasn't clear enough on the smaller picture, because I'm a big picture girl. So on this smaller picture, my world is all about dating post-divorce. Dating post-divorce, that's it. What does that look like? And how can I help you? And everyone comes in and they're in different spots, right? Everyone's coming in with a different story, and our story is so important. And our story has left something to be healed. That's just the bottom line, because you don't get 30, 40, 50 years into life without needing something to be healed. And if we don't heal whatever that is, we don't get to change our story. I don't know about you, but I desperately wanted to change my story. Desperately. So a lot of this comes from the idea that we need to open up to ideas and concepts that maybe we didn't actually even know existed previously. What do you think about that? Could that be the case? And I think that's why I'm so passionate about this. because if you've been around me for a while now, if you followed me for a while, you know that I have a really hard time with the grooming that society has done to us. There's been such a strong cultural and societal groom that it has inherently changed the way we think, the way we react, the way we respond. And it's altering us. And so long as we are responding to it, we're not authentic. And if we're not authentic, how the fuck are we ever going to really feel good and feel satisfied and feel fulfilled in our life? So that's my passion. My passion is helping people understand why they're vibrating here and how the profiles, the messages, the people that they are attracting as a direct result of where they're vibrating in terms of energetic vibrations. My passion is helping people find clarity on what it is that they actually want, and then helping them build their courage to fucking go get it. We've been groomed to live in a monogamous society that doesn't always feel good to everybody. And I am not here to preach monogamy versus non-monogamy. I am not here to preach what anybody should do or what's right for them. I am here to say that you have full autonomy and the full power of the decisions that you make in your life. And it's okay if you make a decision that goes against what you were groomed to believe. Okay? So people ask all the time about my relationship with AC. They don't understand it. And it's been a really hard struggle for me at certain points because there are a couple people who I really wanted them desperately to get it. And I wasn't sure if they were ever going to. And then I got to a point where I didn't really fucking care. I'm totally honest. Don't fucking care. Whether you choose, and this is what I've learned, whether you choose a traditional route or you choose a non-traditional route, the core of the relationship for it to be healthy looks the same. What is that core? Communication, trust, and respect. That's the core. It's feeling safe within that space. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I would never say that communication came easy to me and AC. Never in a million years would I claim that statement. In fact, communication is really fucking hard between us. But you know what came easy? The ability and the chance to be completely honest and completely truthful with one another. What came easy was the feeling of safety, the trust, the respect, and the safety. That came easy. The communication, No. Something we work on every day. We continuously work on it every single day. So here's the deal. In my previous marriage, we did not have good communication. In fact, I would actually wager to say we didn't have communication, right? Like, fair enough. Like, we didn't speak most of the days. When we did speak, gaslighting was usually taking place. And it got to a point where I truly felt like everything was my fault. There was no responsibility between us that was shared. And there was no respect. And there was no trust. There was a constant need to hide information. Like, stupid shit. Like, I would be like he'd say like, well, I have something to do after work today. And I'd be like, oh, well, what do you have going on? And he would be like, well, that's none of your business. Oh, okay. Cool. You go do your thing. I'll be here taking care of our mini crotch gremlins that, I gave birth to. Yeah, cool. Because we didn't communicate, because there was no trust, because there was no respect, there was no base for our relationship. There was no chance of it ever surviving. And the reality is, it was never going to survive. It was narcissistic. It was abusive. I was gaslit for a long time. If you don't know what gaslighting is, you can look it up. But it is basically, this idea that the person will turn any conversation around and make it your fault. They will always be the victim or the hero. You never get any credit other than fucking up, basically. And that is not a professional definition of what it is, but basically, long story short, that's what it is, right? I never thought I was going to date anyone again, let alone find myself in an actual relationship. And what is amazing to me is, from the very first conversation that AC and I ever had, there was just this brutal honesty. And I remember before we even met, at one point we were on Snap and we're snapping back and forth. And he told me he was reading. I was like, oh, what are you reading? And what's on your bookshelf, And he went over to his bookshelf. And as he's scanning the bookshelf, I'm like, I have that book. I have that book. I have that book. So right there was I knew that he was working on him, right? That becoming a better person, growing as a human was important to him. And we started, I remember the first time we disagreed on something. I don't even think we disagreed on it. No, I don't even think we were disagreeing. Here's what would happen, you guys. I would say something, I would get super excited, and I was like, so meet me here. And he was like, hold up. There's been no discussion and you didn't even ask what I'm doing. So no. And I was super taken back. What? You just said you didn't have plans. He's like, yeah, but you didn't ask. You ordered me. I didn't order. I asked. And then I would go back and listen. And I was like, huh. I can see how he thinks I ordered him. I can see where that came from. Okay. Got it. We found this delicate balance of where we could talk to each other without maliciously trying to hurt one another, without saying things to hurt one another, but yet what you said hurt. Okay, so I want, like, follow with me here. I say, I'll give you a perfect example. There was a point in time we had disconnected. Lasted about 2 weeks. Things were really, it was the height right before I moved. I may have been a slight basket case. I mean, I may have been slightly more than tiny bit emotional. Okay. Could have been. Could have been. Might have said some things that, like, that I said wholeheartedly, completely meaning every word, and they weren't bad things. But the way I said them and the way he received them were not the same. So I will tell you, I had said, I appreciate you. I have feelings. And I just wanted to put it out there. What he heard was, please marry me. What I was saying was, I'm happy. Right? Like, if you know me, you know I develop feelings very quickly and very intensely for everything. For everything. So honestly, let's face it, the fact that I made it all the way till here before I even uttered those words is, like, pretty freaking amazing. He had a marriage proposal in his mind. That's what I had said. In my mind, it wasn't. It was just stating facts. Does that make sense? So we had disconnected. He was like, this is a little bit too intense for me. I can't do this. I don't think I can give you what you need or what you're looking for. I was like, the fuck are you talking about? I didn't ask you for anything. Didn't ask you for another thing. But we disconnected. And it was a couple days later when he sent me another snap. And I was like, huh, we cool? And he's like, no. Oh. He's like, but we can talk about how to be. Okay. Right? And we got on the phone that night, or a couple nights later. And as we talked, and I said to him, I never asked you for another thing. And he's like, I realize that now. He's like, but in that moment, it felt like you needed more from me. And I'm like, I never said that. And the more we talked, the more we ironed out more differences. And I said to him at the end of the conversation, I said, I just have one more question. You disconnected from me so quickly. Why? Like, it hurt. Like, out of everything, like, that's the first time you've actually done something that hurt, that stung. And he looked at me because we were on video. He looked at me and he's like, Deb, in that moment, I had my sneakers on and I was out the door. I was never looking back. He's like, it was a visceral reaction to what you said. That stung. Like, hard. Like, his answer, it hurt. Like, he, in all intents and purposes, as of that moment, never planned to see me again. Whew. But guess what? He did see me again. And that hurt that we speak, it's just the truth. There is such a deep seated trust there because of it. I can't even explain to you what it feels like with healthy communication. It's a complete game changer in all of the ways. But people look at us and they think because our energy is magical, and I hear this a lot from people, they actually most of the time don't believe that things have moved as slow as they have between us. They don't believe that we don't live together. We still don't even live in the same state. But because that energy is magic, people assume things come easy. And it doesn't. We check in on communication weekly. We check in with each other weekly. And at the end of the day, we each have a set. We entered this almost like an agreement. And as time has evolved and we have evolved, our agreement has changed because it has also evolved. So at first, like we entered this and we were two separate people who never, like you live your life, I live my life. We come together to have a little bit of fun and we go back to our own lives. We talk about our fun times and we talk about this like epicenter of our world together. We don't talk about the things on the outliers. We don't talk about the kids. We don't talk about friends. We don't talk about family. We don't talk about bills. We don't talk about real stuff, right? But we talk about dating. We talk about the other dates that we've been on. We talk about things that are coming up in that regard. And then slowly that world began to kind of open up a little bit, really, really slowly. And as it ever so slowly opened up, we finally got to a point where we agreed that we are primary partners. We agreed that these are the things that we can talk about. We agreed that we can continue evolving in this way. We have set boundaries. We have set expectations. And at the end of the day, on this checklist of who we are, what we do, where we are going, it's very self-serving. So each week we have to sit down and say, is this still serving me? Is it still serving me? And if at any point in time the answer becomes no, it's time to move on for either one of us. We don't let resentment build. If something doesn't feel right, we call it out. Like now, like call it out now. And we can do that because we feel safe. There is nobody in this world who knows the version of me that he knows. There is nobody in this world who I feel safer with than with him. And the reason all of this is super important is because we never should have met. We never should have met. Our paths never should have crossed. We should have been a one-night stand. But here we are, choosing one another over and over again, choosing a non-traditional life, choosing what that means to us. And the reason I like this idea of a non-traditional life, it is not for the monogamy or the non-monogamy or any of that. It's because in a monogamous relationship, the standards of the labels is already preset. The obligations are already there. In this non-traditional life, you get to create them as you go. That's pretty cool. It's pretty fucking amazing. Man. What do you want your relationship to look like? How do you want it to serve you? I'm here to help you create it. I'm here to help you figure it out. You guys, that's what my coaching sessions are for. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out together. I'm ready. Are you?